Do you guys remember our Jeep last summer, last fall? This Jeep was up at our cabin. This came with our cabin. We have a cabin up in northern Michigan. When we bought our cabin, the previous owner said, if you buy the cabin, you can have the Jeep. And we were like, sweet. So last summer, we went up to our cabin and we brought it home. And we want to work on it. We want to get this thing fixed up so we can drive around town, go to the farmer's market, go up to the feed store, just a cruise around weekends, spring, summer, fall. It's nice. Let's take the Jeep out for a ride. And since I brought it home, I have done not much with it, and this is the reason why. These are acorns. Acorns, yeah. I got the Jeep home, it was running okay, and then it kind of just like, I couldn't get it running again. Looked down inside the carburetor and it was packed full of acorns. So apparently at some point when I had it at the cabin, I must have left the air cleaner off of the top of the carburetor, and the squirrels, chipmunks, somebody decided it's a good place to store acorns. So I stopped trying to start it. Okay, this isn't good. I need to fix this situation. And I'm like the worst guy when it comes to carburetors. And I don't know why, but every carburetor I've ever tried to touch always turns out worse than when I started. And I don't know why. So I pulled the carburetor from the Jeep and cleaned up the gasket material all around where it goes. I took pictures of it and I sent it off to Kaiser Willys. They have a rebuild service that they will do on a carburetor. You basically send them your carburetor, you pay them like $300, they rebuild the entire thing, they say like brand new, show quality, and send it back to you. And I did this back in December. I think it was early to mid-December sometime. I pulled the carburetor off and I packaged it up and I sent it off to them. And fast forward, so basically all of December, January, February, just within the last week, end of February, early March, I got the carburetor back. So we can pick up where we left off on the Jeep. I'm going to show you the carburetor, kind of how it turned out. I haven't even taken it out of the bubble wrap yet, so I don't know how it looks. So we'll take a look at that. We'll see how that looks. We'll start looking at what it's going to take to get this carburetor put back on. I think I got a plan. We'll see how far we can get into it today in one video. But let's head over to the workbench and I'll show you the carburetor and how that turned out. So I'll show you a quick picture here of kind of how the carburetor looked before I even sent it off to them. And as you can see, it's had a pretty rough life. I'm pretty sure that the accelerator pump inside the little rubber baffle was completely shot. And who knows what else. So packaged it up, sent it off to them. They include a gasket, a new stud, some new bolts, and a little clamp for clutch cable, I believe, or throttle cable. And then they sent the carburetor back. Let's see how this looks. I sent the whole carb, throttle body, everything. I just basically took it off the motor, put it in a box, and sent it to them. So. Wow, it does look like new. Wow. That's impressive. I dig it. And I questioned the guy when I called him and talked to him. I'm like, so you offer this service for like $300. I basically send you my carburetor, and that's kind of like my core charge, and then you take one that you've already rebuilt and send it back, and they're like, nope, we will take your carburetor and rebuild it, polish it all up, rebuild the entire thing, new gaskets, new accelerator pump, new everything. And then they mount this. They have in their shop, they have a Jeep motor that they put this on, and then they tune it and adjust it, get it all running perfect, and then send it back to you. So they kind of tell you, like, when you get it and you hook it up, do not adjust anything. It's already tuned and ready to go. So I guess one of the first things we need to do is these studs. So this part of this bolt goes down into the intake, and then the top half of it sticks out, and then carburetor goes on, and then this nut goes on the top. It kind of holds it on there. When I took the old carburetor off, one of the studs stayed. It stayed in the intake. The other one came out. So when I sent it back to them, when I sent the carburetor to them, they sent this piece back to me, a new stud and then a nut. So I had a second nut, because you kind of gotta, in order to get this threaded on there, you kind of gotta put two nuts on and jam them together, screw that down into the intake, and then undo these nuts and take them off. So that's kind of, I think, where I'm at least get this stud in here, and make sure I can get the nuts off. It's really hard to get a camera angle in here where you guys can see with me. I don't have like anything to put this camera up so you guys can see. End up spending a lot more time on this thing. I'll see what I can come up with. We can get another way so you guys can see a little better what I'm doing down in here. All right, stud is in, nuts are off. I guess I need to look at my linkage here and figure out what I'm working with. So this is the throttle. This is connected to the gas pedal. You push this to make the car go, obviously. Look a little better. Again, got you guys kind of propped up there, up high so you can see down. So we'll put our gasket on there. I think I have everything sorted out. The only thing I don't have figured yet is this throttle cable. But I think you should be able to, at this point, get the carb bolted down, the gasket in there, and then start working on connecting our linkage and cables and stuff like that once we get it secured. I was just out, I heard a sound outside of some kind of well-tuned motor out there, and I looked out. My neighbor across the street, his son lives with him. He's an older retired guy, and his son lives with him. I don't quite know how old his son is. In fact, I don't even know what his name is. Kind of weird. They live like right across the street from us, and I don't even know what the guy's name is, but I know the dad, but I don't know the son's name. They're kind of real private people. They don't really like company. They don't like stay out of my business kind of people. But his son has at least 2 different Jeeps, and these things are like, both of them are older generation. I don't think neither one of them I don't think is as old as ours, but he's got those things tricked out, man. They sound good. They almost sound like, I'm wondering if he's got 8-cylinder motors in them, where ours is just a 4-cylinder, but they're some good sounding Jeeps. One of these days, when I see that guy out in his yard with his Jeep, he takes it for a ride up and down the street a lot. I'm gonna go out and have a talk with them and say, hey, your Jeeps are pretty nice. How much do you know about Jeeps? You wanna give me a hand? See if maybe he can share some wisdom with me. So CARB is all bolted in, tightened down with the gasket. This fuel line here. That started, and then we'll tighten that up. It's a tiny, tiny little pin. See if we can do this without dropping it. Surprised I haven't lost this thing. Been sitting on my workbench for 3 months. Good. Those neighbor people, like I said, as private as they can be, the younger gentleman, the son, he was pretty quick to show up the other night when we had that drunk guy hit our tree in the front yard. I heard him out there saying, "Where's Todd? Where's Todd?" I'm like, hey neighbor, how do you even know my name? Don't know your name. But he seems like a nice guy. I mean, I wave to him and he waves to me, but when I met the old man, first day I met him was made comments about stay out of my business, and I planted all these trees here that way you can't see what I'm doing, and okay, no problem. I don't have no problem at all respecting people that want to remain private. I think at some point I'm gonna this choke cable and the throttle cable are so hard to pull. I think I'm just gonna buy a new cable assembly here one of these days and put it in, but for now this will do. I invested a while ago in some of those, what are these things, Wera? I think they might be German screwdrivers. Some of the nicest screwdrivers I've ever used, man. Some things are not going so well. It is just dripping, dripping, dripping gas from the front housing here. And just tightening up this little brass elbow. It was pretty loose, but I don't think that's... Yeah, I'm leaking gas everywhere. I don't feel like that's the source of my leak. If I spray starter fluid in there, it'll start. But without starter fluid, once the starter fluid runs out, the engine dies. So we'll try that now and see if my gas still leaks everywhere. Because I was able to tighten this elbow one whole extra turn. I'm gonna smoke myself out of here real quick. Need to burp. sounding good now. I think I'm gonna wrap this up for today. We got it to a point farther than I thought I was gonna get to today. Seems to be running good. I wanna let it cool down now. And then I'll try to start it again when it's cold. Because I don't wanna have to like carry around a can of starter fluid with me everywhere I go just in case my Jeep doesn't start. It's kind of silly. But I feel good. It's time to start moving on to the next phases. It's starting to warm up. I can work in my garage again, so I'll bring in more Jeep stuff as we go along.